not your business. It's for me in charge of the government to just go to Geneva and sign away all of your rights without you knowing. So that happened in May 2025, where the nations pledged and signed, and it decided on July 19th. And we're all going to sign it, and to hell with the rest of the world. But of course, America didn't sign it because they pulled out of the WHO. And I think a couple of the countries didn't. But guess what? All of the countries in the Caribbean where these puppet government exists did sign that agreement. And of course, nobody had a press conference. It didn't come back and they didn't tell us all about these things. We just know that they went and they did what they had to do. Right? So it's strange enough that after all this is happening, Marcia, up comes the training of trainers by the WHO, which they call Emergency Preparedness and Response Simulation Exercise for Pandemic Preparedness. Just after all this is signed, you know.
But if I can stop you there, as you said, simulation exercise, I remember, and somebody, I think it's Pedro who put it here, but I remember, and I agree with Pedro because I remember researching that they had, it's on the screen, that they had, there was that's not the one, there was a simulation event of the COVID, you know, that was held, at least it was probably about 2 years before COVID hit.
Correct.
You remember that?
Yes, it was a tabletop exercise.
Yes.
And I can't bring the name right now, but it was a tabletop exercise carried out by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, along with I think it was either a Harvard or another university, and it actually talked about where COVID would break out, and just where they said in the simulation is exactly where it broke out. So don't think that these things happen in isolation.
And I know they're going to do another simulation event.
Correct. So here's what's happening now. So here you have training of trainers in Kazakhstan again, right? In Kazakhstan again, emergency preparedness response simulation exercise for pandemic preparedness and crisis communication. And when did this took place, Marcia? While all of us were distracted with Epstein and the Epstein files, nobody cared. That's when it took place. July the 7th to the 11th. That is when that exercise took place. But guess what? The whole world was taken up with the Epstein files, so nobody cared about that again. And I often tell people, whenever you see all these things taking place, the distractions, that's when the real things are happening in the background that you're not supposed to know about, right? Pay attention, pay attention. So from the 7th to the 11th of July, the WHO office in Kazakhstan, they carried out what you call a simulation exercise. And guess where the financial support for that came from? It came from the pandemic fund. You know, if you told me that it came from the office of the Ministry of Health in Kazakhstan, maybe if you told me that they just wanted to get some training for the doctors, you know, in communication crisis, in pandemic preparedness, if you told me that the country just wanted training and was sponsored by the Ministry of Health in that country, I would say, you know what? Forget that, man. That's just the people wanted to be, this is just the people want to be aware of how to respond in crisis. But when you come to tell me that it was sponsored by the pandemic fund, nothing to do with the country, but the simulation exercise took place there again. This country is like a melting pot for the WHO and everybody else. I really need to go there, or maybe really research it to find out what the hell is so special about Kazakhstan. I really want to know. There must be something special about that country, why WHO loves it so much, right? But anyway, it took place there, and it brought together about 30 professionals from different regions of the world to do this training and this simulation exercise and communication response and all this kind of stuff. So all that happened while we were so distracted with Epstein and Epstein. Who's Epstein? Let's study Epstein, you know, and Didi. Let's study the Didi trial and all this nonsense. All this was happening. But guess what, Marcia? Guess what's so special about this whole thing? I said, you know what? There must be something why these people are doing these things and nobody's hearing about it. And following that exercise, I noticed all of a sudden that the BBC at one time talked about Nipah virus. I said, what the hell in the world is Nipah virus?
Mm.
And then I went to look it up and I realized it's something that happens a lot in Central Asia, like in India, in Pakistan, and those countries over there. And I said, but that's interesting. Why all of a sudden they're talking about Nipah virus all of a sudden? So this is very interesting because you must always remember, Marcia, and I'm going to take you back quickly before I come back forward. In the 1990s, when they went into Iraq and they talk about all these mass weapons of mass destruction,
Yes.
I went back to a lot of newspapers and online papers to find out if they were talking about what they were talking about before that. And guess what, Marcia? Do you know that almost every day for the last 5 years before the attack Iraq, everybody was just talking about Iraq and weapons of mass destruction? So they actually tell you what they're about to do before they do it. But we don't pay attention to anything really because we're distracted with all the music, all the nice time and all these things. But pay attention because guess what? So I'm coming back now. And all of a sudden, BBC, Nipah virus. And just the other day, I realized CBS talk about some Nipah virus in one of those states in America. It's just, they talk about it oddly in between to start program your mind without thinking that you're being programmed, but we don't pay attention to it. So this is happening. And then I see this University of Minnesota. All of a sudden, a University of Minnesota starts talking about Nipah virus on their website. Why the hell would a university in the US talk about Nipah virus? About where is Minnesota? In the central part of America. That's about probably, if you check it on a map, it would be about 7,000 miles away from India. Well, I mean, why would I be concerned about something that took place somewhere in a village in India? It's like the University in America. It's so weird, right? And then I said, this is not weird. This is exactly how the bouncing ball goes. You have to follow it, right? And so I went to their website and they had a press release on the 7th of July talking about the Nipah virus. And 2 persons were infected in India and 1 person died. And they talked about the village in India where the infection came from. And all of this went on and went on. And then I said to myself, that's very, very, very interesting. And at the end of the article, they were talking about some issue about a vaccine for Nipah virus. And I said, my beloved people, wow. And then I said, where is this thing taking place? So I followed the bouncing ball and I said, so who's doing the research for this, second arm juice, what they want to bring about? And lo and behold, I saw that the USDA, which is the United States Department of Agriculture. So what the hell the USDA is doing talking about a Nipah research? And then I went there and I found that they have a research project called Nipah VLP arm juice, because if I say the word with V, these institutions might want to ban us. So they had the Nipah VLP arm juice for what? Pandemic preparedness. I say, the United States Department of Agriculture. What are they?
Agriculture.
I don't understand this. This is just weird. Agriculture? Yeah. So I said, this is crazy. And so it's under their Department of Zoonotic and Emerging Disease Research. And then they had their project number, and then they had the project type, which is said is a non-assistance cooperative agreement with another company out of Europe who's also looking into the arm juice for Nipah. And that company is getting funding from the foundation of this guy who thinks that he's a doctor, and so to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars for the Nipah arm juice. I said, this is very interesting. So the start, and guess what? What is really funny about this is that, guess what, Marcia? The start date for this research, for this Nipah arm juice, was August the 15th, 2024. That's when the research began for it, right? But you must remember what I told you earlier when I was speaking. On September the 16th, the WHO and the UNDP joined forces to hold an exercise, or they had an initiative in Kyrgyzstan to do what? To boost pandemic preparedness and health infrastructure.
Right. And that was
September.
August. Yeah.
September 16, 2024 is when that took place. And when you go back now, you find that the start date for the Nipah arm juice was August the 15th, 2024. Could anything be more like, then again, we're just hypothetically speaking there.
Coincidence, a big
We don't,
coincidence.
yeah, we don't know anything. We're just talking crap right here now. We don't know anything, and so the end date for this research into this arm juice for Nipah is actually August the 14th, 2026.
Wow.
I wonder.
It was so good. Let me tell you, it would be so good to have this on a timeline. So here it is,
Yep.
August the 15th,
Mm-hmm.
right? 2024,
Mm-hmm.
right? And
Yep.
then we're looking at September 15th or 14th.
That started on. You're talking about the research.
Yes.
The research for the arm juice started on August the 15th, 2024.
Right.
The training for the pandemic preparedness with the WHO and the UNDP began on September 16th, 2024.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right. So basically a month after the start of the research. Right. Yeah. And the end date for this research would be August the 14th, 2026.
Wow.
So we're having some timeline here. Now, let's go to the other, fanciful stuff, because we're not anything.
And listen, you only have 11 minutes with me. You're going to have to book. You have us now. You're whetting our appetite here.
Yeah. So I'm gonna finish it. And I'm gonna give you the ice cream now. I'm just gonna finish it off right now. Dessert now. So this arm juice, basically, I just tonight, and as I was getting here, Marcia, I had somebody in New York. I sent them on a mission to find something because I just couldn't find something. And then they sent something to me and they said, listen to me, don't call my name. I said, no, come on, we're not going to call your name. And they said, the Nipah arm juice, the candidates for that is basically progressing towards mid-stage human trials in Bangladesh. Now, it is supported by 17.3 million investment from the guy who thinks that he's a doctor.
We can say Bill Gates.
Yeah, well, you know how it is, right?
Yeah.
And what they're saying here to me is that this arm juice is also being developed now by a company called Public Health Vaccines. And they have already advanced through early stage clinical trials. So that is already done. That's already been done, Marcia. That's already been done. And this phase that they're entering now is the phase 2 trials. Guess what? To assess its safety, its efficacy. Where did we hear that word before? The efficacy.
Yeah.
And the tolerability and the manufacturing ability to induce an immune response. That's the stage they're at right now. Remember I said to you, so the research is ending in 2026. This is part of the research, but this is phase 2 of it. This is the phase 2, and the phase 2 is human trials and to test its efficacy. All of this thing is just coming together nicely. And where are these candidates or guinea pigs? They're in Bangladesh, in Central Asia. That's where they'll be testing this thing.
So that means, we're going to all of a sudden hear an outbreak probably in Bangladesh now.
Absolutely. So we have to look for Central Asia. And again, it's always just like the last one that we had in a wet market somewhere in some place in China. It's again in Asia. Right? And funny enough, while they said that it was the China, whatever it was, and it started there, you see again where the research is taking place in the United States of America.
Yes.
It's just, but we don't know anything about
because
that.
They were funding. They were the ones funding the research.
That is not misinformation. Fauci admitted to it. Fauci admitted to that in congressional hearings, and we can provide all the details. There are videos of congressional hearing. There are articles from BBC, CNN. He admitted to it. So let's not get twisted on this platform neither. But the point about it is that that's where we are in phase 2. So basically, they're saying really and truly that Nipah, the virus, basically is fatal. It's highly fatal, and it can cause up to a 75% mortality rate. That is pretty high. That is pretty high. But like I said to you, um, they're in phase 2. They're in phase 2 of the guinea pig, and they're looking at efficacy and the manufacturing ability and all that kind of stuff. Hey, what? Guess what?
Wow. I mean, this
So
just
I
to,
am
I
giving you.
wanted to talk about some other things, but just even just in WHO, we can't even go any. I
We
mean,
can't go.
your
We can't go
hour,
anywhere.
your hour is basically up, but I
Yeah.
mean, this has been so informative. Now we have 7 minutes, and I want us to talk about um what do we do? We're listening to you, but tonight,
Yeah.
and a lot of people are saying this is very informative. I hope people are sharing and liking.
Yeah.
At least hit the thumbs up button. That's going to help us the algorithm. Now, folks, and I'm asking on behalf of everybody, really, what do we do? Because I remember we were trying to talk to people about this, the last juice.
Yeah.
And some people went and took it. I know people the same issue, where they're suffering in their bodies. And if that's you and you're listening, I really am not into trying to condemn people in any way. We are one people. We're not going to let that separate us. You are
Correct.
our brother, you're our sister, and anything you need, any kind of help, we're there. We're just saying that it's important to get information. Everything we're talking about tonight, you go and research it yourself.
Yes. It's
Go and
available.
research it. The research is available. Don't get distracted. Research. But what we're saying, at least give a listening ear this time. Listen, please. Now, for people who are listening and they say, "My God, something's going to hit us again." What do we do? What can we do? Are we just sitting ducks? What can we do, sir?
The thing is, we are living in a world where many of us, and you said the word right, many of us, I don't, sitting duck probably is a good word, because sometimes we try our best to really do what we have to do to speak to people, to let them know that these are respiratory issues. And I'm not going to say the V word behind it, because I'm not a medical doctor for this platform to get rid of us. But I'm going to say right away that these are respiratory issues. All of them that are happening, they're respiratory issues. And so once our immune systems are fully intact and we're using, all these natural products to, we eating healthy foods instead of the greasy things to clog our arteries, and we're getting our daily exercises, we're getting enough vitamin D, just like how we tried to survive during the last session. It's basically what we can do again to survive this next session. We really can't tell our government anything, because once there is an armed juice again, they will force it down our throats. That's what they will want to do. We have to form a pushback. As usual, we have to go and push back, because if we don't push back against it, and when I say push back, I'm talking about bringing up these things to light, talking about them, calling on your governments to say to you, calling on your governments to say to you, what did you sign at the last Geneva Convention with the WHO? Explain to us, what exactly did you sign that could put us in jeopardy, right? What is it that your Ministry of Health can do to advocate for better healthy lifestyles that can ward off many of these things that are respiratory, because they're respiratory in nature, they're respiratory. And if you're always on the go, exercising, getting a lot of rest, getting your vitamin D, eating healthy foods instead of consuming a lot of the junk, you can actually survive a lot of these things. And that's how a lot of people survive the last one. That's how they survive a lot of the last one. Natural stuff, natural remedies, getting your immune system in tip-top shape, right? But you have to press governments to explain to you, what is it that you signed at the Geneva Agreement with the WHO. We need to know we need to know what you signed and how it would put us in jeopardy. Because from the moment WHO says this is a problem, it's a lockdown again. It is a lockdown. So the only pushback can be us calling on our governments to inform us as to what you actually signed and how it is going to be beneficial to us. If it's not going to be beneficial to us, you have to get rid of it. And we have to demand things from people who we put into office. We have to demand it from them. Our life depends on it. Remember, they're part of the globalist agenda. They're part of a system, and they accept it. They accept the science, whether it's good or bad. You understand what I'm saying? And that's part of how we're going to push back against it. Look, our leaders have not said much to us about disagreement. And like I said to you, America, some other nations pulled out of it. But it is important for us to know what is it that you really signed. Listen, the amended agreements, it gives the ability, the WHO, the ability to order global lockdowns. That's why America pulled out of it. That is why
the US. So we want to establish the America. Trump has not signed it.
He has not. He has not, and he has also pulled out of the WHO. Right?
Oh, he's actually pulled out of the WHO.
They have pulled the US out. They have pulled the US out of the WHO. They pulled it out of many organizations. Climate Paris Agreement. We could talk about a lot of stuff, but we don't have the time. But what I'm saying to you here is that RFK Jr., who is the health secretary, right? He spent some time discussing to the American public why they pulled out of it. And basically what he was saying is that, look, this agreement gives the WHO people who are not, they're not even in government, they're just some bureaucrats sitting down someplace. It just gives them the ability to order global lockdowns on a whim, right? And your government will have to comply with that because it's a binding agreement. Whether they want to admit it or not, it's a binding agreement, right? And they can impose travel restrictions at a whim. They can do that if they see something is happening. Or any other measure, if they see fit to respond to what they call any nebulous potential public health risk. So crime as a public health risk in Barbados, let's have a lockdown. There's nothing you can do. Just lock it down. And these are the things that RFK Jr. was talking about, why he says, no, we can't give away America's sovereignty to a body of some men. It can't happen because these are the things that they're introducing in that binding agreement. These are the regulations that are set out and become binding. And they became binding on July the 19th, 2025, if they were not rejected by any country that signed the agreement. Did Barbados tell you that? Did St. Vincent tell me that? Did Grenada tell Grenadans that? Trinidad? No, they have not. They have not. They have not. All we know, ministers of health, people went to these meetings, they came back. They have not reported to us anything. They have not. And that is what is happening around us. And this is why RFK Jr. says in the US, America will not be part of this because this is a binding agreement. And how can a WHO just tell America, lockdown, and you can't tell me anything? I have to do it. And the WHO can tell me when to come out of it. So my country must just be in a lockdown, losing economy, losing money, losing because you say so. No, it can't happen. So they pulled out of that, right? Did St. Vincent pull out of it? No. Did Barbados? Did St. Lucia? Did Grenada? No, they did not. As a matter of fact, did any minister of health in any of these countries come and tell us about that? No, they did not. So this proposed amendment, what took place here, it opens the door, basically, I would say, to this kind of narrative management, propaganda, and censorship again. That's what it does, because they will be the one guiding the communication. They said, in these things this time around, that's what they said, because they have to get rid of misinformation, they said, and disinformation. That was a big part of the meeting with this amendment. So they would be guiding the narrative or the propaganda and the censorship, anything that pops up one more time. And RFK Jr. spoke to that as well. He says the United States can cooperate with any nation, but it is not going to jeopardize the civil liberties of the US or undermine the Constitution of the US or secede any American treasured sovereignty to any organization. Look, listen to me. What you heard what he said there? He said that he's not going to give away American civil liberties, undermine their Constitution, or secede any of America's sovereignty to a body of men. What the? hell our Caribbean countries are doing? Giving away our civil liberties, seceding our sovereignty, undermining our constitutions.
But let me ask you something. I know. Oh my goodness, 902. My last question, please. I beg you.
Yeah.
So let me ask you something. When they have now, according to the WF and the WHO, crime is now a public health issue.
Yep.
As I'm listening to you, the WHO then is going to handle the lockdowns then.
Correct.
Wow. So when we make public crime a public health issue, do you understand that, guys? Then the WHO will have a hand in all the lockdowns and the curfews and all, because it is now a public health issue. Wow.
Absolutely correct. And that is why you been hear them touting all the time. Everybody all of a sudden, crime as a public health. Crime as a public health. And the WHO has been talking about crime as a public health a lot. So if the WHO think, look, this Caribbean region has too many gun crimes all of a sudden, we are declaring that crime is a public health pandemic. Let's get some lockdown and get the crime under control. What the hell can Mia Mutley do? What the hell can Gonzalez do? What the hell can Kamala do? What the hell can Deacon Mitchell do? You just have to secede. You sign that agreement. It's a binding agreement. And I don't think that these people have the guts to pull out of these agreements, because it's what comes with them. You understand what I'm saying? It's what you get from these organizations. You don't want to give up the $2 you have. But let me say this quickly, because my bed is calling me. And I tell you what. Because Marcia, we have to come back and talk about all of this thing.
Yes, we should.
It will take me, like I said to you, a lifetime. We'll have to have wake, tea and buns, all these things, Cocoa tea and bakes, all these things. To have,
you know what we should do? We should set it up where you're going. We do it, and you're going straight to your channel as well. I'll talk to you about that. Yeah?
Well, that's not a problem. That's not a problem at all. I can always
keep this is great education, and we need to keep it going.
Yes, and I tell you what. Listen to this. Listen to this, good. This is the last thing I'm going to say before I jump into my pajamas. Listen to this, good, because the rain is coming down very heavy, and since I was a kid, I love rain. I love to sleep when rain is coming. Listen to this, good.
Yes.
Listen to this, good. By definition, Marcia, crime, gun violence cannot be a public health crisis. That is just utter foolishness. And no group of bureaucrats with the WHO and no group of doctors or politicians can just invent a public health crisis by simply declaring one. It just cannot happen. And they need to stop their foolishness. I get pretty angry, and I get pretty angry with these things, because they just can't, and they should not be allowed to do it. And that is why I often say our people need to wake up and take the bull by the horn. And even if you vote for a party and you vote for a government, you have to declare to them that there's just no way, by definition, no way that any crime, any gun violence can just be declared a public health crisis. It is utter foolishness. You can't declare it a public health crisis by just inventing it. They're inventing it. It's foolishness. Gun violence, crime, is not in the same category as some disease someplace. It's just foolishness.
Yes.
Gun violence, Marcia, like you see it today, even in Barbados or in St. Vincent, it may be widespread. Gun violence may be widespread, right? It may be widespread. But that does not turn it into a public health crisis. Bullets do not float around in the air randomly looking for victims. They don't do that. You understand what I'm saying to you?
Yes.
They don't float around in the air looking for victims. Bullets don't do that. And they don't float around up there, and they don't multiply and infect people. That's not how they operate. Somebody has to aim it at you for something to happen to you. And if you look at it, a lot of research have been gone into this. Guns possessed by individuals, not owned by individuals, they're saying that more than 99% of those guns that people walk around with, criminals more than 99% of the guns, let me put it this way, let me don't mix it up. more than 99% of the guns owned by licensed firearm holders are never really used in a crime, right? So they never really used to commit a crime, or never used really, they hardly used in a crime. You're talking about 99% of the guns that are owned by firearm holders, illegal firearm holders, right? So the point is, if you're looking at 99% owned by firearm holders, legal people who have guns, never used in a crime, ready to commit a crime. So we have this 1% floating around. How the hell does that become a public health crisis? You remember what I said to you, gun violence is widespread, yes, and we accept it is widespread, right? But that does not make it a public health crisis. And you can't lock me down in my house to get mental health issues because you don't know how to solve gun crime. What you have in these countries are a lot of people who get into office, and like I said, most of them selected to carry out an agenda. And that is why you want to know what is happening with crime and why crime can't be solved. Well, let's watch. Crime starts in the home. That's where it starts. It starts when a child is 5, 6, 7, and 8, and they do things, and a parent don't rebuke them. That's where crime starts. You understand? That's where it starts. A 5, 6, 7-year-old, they turn over a bucket of something, or they say something nasty at a party, and the parents laugh. Right there. That's where crime starts. That's where crime starts. Without rebuking the child, that is where crime starts. Let's get real, Marcia. These people need to get real. That is where it starts, right? We have a school system. We don't no longer discipline our students. We give the students rights over adults who are with them from 9 to 3, who they spend most of their time with. We give them rights over the teachers. So we cut out all the discipline in school, and we say children have more rights than adults. And that is where crime starts. Let's get real. Let us get real and stop this foolishness about crime as a public health. You understand? And let's get real. When police want to do their job, and you have a group of policemen who want to do their job, and they pick up a drug dealer or somebody who commits a crime, and because these people have friends in high and low places, they can get off with a slap on the wrist. That is where crime starts and perpetrates even more. So let us stop this foolishness about crime as some public health, and because of gun violence, it should become a public health, and you should lock me down in my house for 2 weeks and let's find a way to solve this issue. No, it's not. It's a crime we're solving. It's shutting down you and me and others who speak against the narrative and the foolishness that they're doing to shut us up for a while so that they can carry out what they want to carry out. That is what it's all about. It's not a damn thing about no public health. Let's get real, and people need to be real. And I get very passionate about these things because of the foolishness leaders want to perpetrate on populations. And we have to stop. This is the last thing I'm saying. We have to stop idealizing these politicians.
Yes.
If you want to vote, go vote. I'm not stopping you. That is your right so to do. Go vote if you want to. All I am saying, do not love these people so much that you can't see when they are wrong. Do not do it. Do not love them to the point that you can't see that sometimes they are the purveyors of the things that are happening in society that is all wrong. You hear me? Sometimes people don't want to talk bluntly to politicians and say what is to be said. You're not maligning politicians. You're not cursing them out. You're telling it as it is. Stop loving politicians to your detriment. You can speak with them. You can talk policy with them. You can tell them, listen, this is what you need to do to help us, the average man. You understand? But I find sometimes when you have these topics, and that is why sometimes I don't like to talk about people's prime ministers or presidents, because people seem to love these people more than themselves. You understand? You wake up tomorrow morning, you have no bread in your house, you have no this in your house. These people can eat, they can sleep comfortable, and they can live. You, on the other hand, have to struggle your daily lives. After 10 years, these people can get pensions to the tune of hundreds of thousands of dollars. You work your bottom off. And as they say in the Caribbean, you work your ass off till you're 60 and 65, and then they want to push it to 70. And sometimes you die without getting that pension. Stop loving these people to your detriment. Go vote if you want to vote, but have your best interests at heart. Firstly. And with that, rain is down, and I'm going to my bed, Marcia. Have a good night.
Yes, and you have to make a promise to be on air that you're coming back. You've got, because we only touch on 2. We did we did health, and we did crime. Okay, so we need to touch on the climate change and some other things. And we're gonna talk, and everybody send Vincent Times. I don't need to tell you all how to find that. Just go on YouTube. Don't do SVG Time. Do send ST Vincent Times, and or type in Ernesto Cooke, and you're going to be able to find him. Message me if you can't find him. Go and like and subscribe to his channel, please. Dave had put it up earlier. Go and like and subscribe to his channel. This is amazing. And we're staying as one. Okay, Ernesto, we're staying as one. Absolutely. God bless you. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
I want to thank you once again, Marcia, for inviting me. Let me give you some Barbadian now. I want to thank you for inviting me tonight to the program. And I want to thank my friend Tyrone Blackman for bigging me up as always. I say good night to the people of Barbados. I hope you have a good night. Stay safe. God bless you. Marcia, I know the Bajan language pretty well. I spent some time in Barbados. I have a lot of friends over there. I have some families over there as well. So I know the Barbadian language pretty good. Take it easy.